The screen fades in from black, showing a bright, modern office building. We hear the faint sound of an email notification. Have you ever felt the sting of betrayal? The kind that cuts so deep you can hardly breathe? For me, that sting came from the one person I trusted most. Cut to a woman standing in front of a desk, her eyes wide with disbelief. Her hand trembles as she opens an email that will change her life forever. I thought I knew her. My best friend, the one I confided in. The one who knew my deepest secrets, my most vulnerable moments. I thought our friendship was unbreakable. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. Flashback of the protagonist and her best friend laughing together, spending time at a cafe, sharing stories, and bonding over memories. The bond seems unshakable. We were inseparable, or so I thought, but everything changed in an instant. A single email, a few lines of text, and everything I believed in came crashing down. The protagonist reads the email. Her face turns pale. The words on the screen read, "I never wanted you to succeed. I only helped you to make myself look good. It's over now." Those words felt like a knife to my heart. How could she? How could she betray me like this after everything we had been through? But little did I know, this was just the beginning. The protagonist's eyes narrow with determination, as if a new fire has been lit inside her. You see, I didn't just lose a friend that day. I lost everything. My reputation, my career, my trust in others. But there was something else I lost. My fear. And that's when I decided I wasn't going to let this betrayal define me. Cut to the protagonist walking out of the office, her posture straight and confident. The door slams behind her. A quiet determination is visible on her face. I was born again, but this time I was no longer the naive, trusting person I used to be. No, I was stronger, I was wiser, and I was ready to turn their lies into my greatest victory. The screen fades into a dimly lit room. The sound of typing fills the air as the protagonist sits at her desk. A computer screen glows in the darkness, filled with research, emails, and social media updates. I had a choice to make. I could let this betrayal destroy me, or I could use it to fuel something bigger. And trust me, I wasn't about to let them win. The protagonist stands up, grabs a notebook, and starts jotting down a plan. I decided to fight back, but not with anger or vengeance. No, the best way to get back at my enemies was to show them that I could rise above. I needed a strategy, a plan that would not only reclaim what I had lost, but also prove to myself that I was stronger than their lies. Cut to the protagonist meeting with her mentor, a calm, wise figure who encourages her to think beyond the immediate emotions. You see, it wasn't just about rebuilding my career, it was about rebuilding my trust in myself. I had to believe in my own power again, in my own worth, and that was something no betrayal could take from me. The mentor speaks. Success doesn't come from the people who cheer for you. It comes from the ones who try to tear you down. The protagonist smiles, realizing the truth in the words. I started taking back control. Little by little, I got back on my feet. I worked harder than I ever had before. I reached out to my network, built new relationships, and kept my focus on what truly mattered, my own growth. A montage plays of the protagonist working late nights, perfecting her skills, attending conferences, and pushing herself beyond her limits. At first, it was tough. I felt alone, isolated, but each step I took forward, no matter how small, felt like a victory. And slowly, the world started to see it too. My enemies, they thought they'd broken me. But all they did was ignite a fire I didn't even know I had. Cut to the protagonist at a networking event, her presence commanding attention. People approach her with respect, admiration, and curiosity. I wasn't just building my career anymore, I was building my legacy. And with every success, I knew the truth, that betrayal, no matter how brutal, would never define me. I would define me. The camera zooms in on her face, confident and determined. The protagonist looks up with a smile, as if seeing the future unfold before her eyes. I didn't just survive this, I thrived, and the greatest part, I hadn't even begun to turn their lies into my greatest victory. The camera transitions to a busy cafe where the protagonist is sitting across from a former ally, a face from her past. There's a tension in the air, but it's not hostile. Instead, it's almost strategic. People always underestimate how powerful words can be. She begins, leaning in slightly. My enemies used lies against me, thinking they could break my spirit. But what they didn't understand was that lies are only as powerful as the truth they hide. She pauses for a moment, letting the words sink in. Her former ally listens intently, sensing the shift in her demeanor. When they spread their stories, trying to tear me down, they gave me something I didn't expect. A chance to rewrite the narrative. It was like they handed me a pen without even realizing it. And I wasn't going to waste the opportunity. The protagonist smiles, recalling the turning point. It's funny how the truth has a way of coming out, even when people try to bury it. You just have to give it the right platform, the right voice. So I used my story, I used their lies to launch myself into something bigger. A flashback sequence plays, showing the protagonist setting up a website, writing blog posts, and recording video messages to her followers. She's no longer in the shadows, she's stepping into the light. I turned every accusation, every false rumor, every twisted truth into a lesson. A lesson for anyone who felt like they were being dragged down by people who didn't have their best interests at heart. I wasn't just fighting for my name, I was fighting for everyone who had ever been misunderstood, maligned, or misjudged. Cut to a social media post going viral, an inspirational video where the protagonist addresses her audience directly, her words resonating with viewers around the world. I realized that every person who ever doubted me, every person who tried to tear me down, was an opportunity. An opportunity to grow, to rise, and to become something more. And I wasn't going to waste it. I knew that the more they lied, the more I could expose their deceit. But not with anger. No, I was going to show the world the power of resilience. Her voice grows stronger as she continues. I didn't need to fight their battles with hate. I just needed to show up. I needed to be better. I needed to win, not because of them, but in spite of them. We see a series of moments where the protagonist starts getting recognition, her name popping up in media, industry awards, and public speaking engagements. The more success she achieves, the more the lies and slander from her enemies seem insignificant. But here's the kicker. The more I turned my back on negativity, the more I realized something. I wasn't just turning their lies into victory, I was turning their hatred into my power. I was becoming the person they always feared I could be. The camera focuses on her eyes as she walks into a conference hall, a sense of pride radiating from her every step. I wasn't doing this for revenge. No, revenge isn't what fuels success. What fuels success is the unwavering belief that you have something valuable to offer the world, and that no one, not even your enemies, can take that from you. She looks out over the crowd, an audience waiting to hear her speak. As the doors open, the protagonist steps confidently onto the stage. The scene transitions to the protagonist standing in front of a large crowd, ready to deliver a speech at a major conference. The audience's expectant silence is palpable. But the protagonist isn't nervous. She's been here before, and this moment feels like the culmination of everything she's worked for. I've learned that the hardest part isn't fighting back. It's moving forward when everyone around you tries to keep you stuck in the past, she begins, her voice calm but confident. There's a saying that goes, the past is a lesson, not a life sentence. But for a long time, I didn't believe that. I thought the past would always be part of who I was. It was a weight I couldn't shake off. The camera cuts to flashbacks, moments of defeat, late nights of self-doubt, and being pulled back into the memories of betrayal. The protagonist looks tired and overwhelmed in these moments, clearly fighting against the ghosts of her past. But here's what no one tells you. You don't have to keep carrying it. You can put the past down, walk away from it, and keep moving forward. And that's exactly what I did. She looks out at the audience, her expression determined. The hardest part about betrayal isn't just the pain. It's how it changes the way you see the world. You start to see people as threats instead of allies. You start to believe that everyone who smiles at you has an ulterior motive. But at some point, you have to make a choice. Do you let the past dictate your future? Or do you take back control? The camera zooms in on her as she continues, her voice resonating with strength and clarity. For me, the choice was simple. I decided to stop being a prisoner of my past. I chose to own my story, not let anyone else write it for me. And that's when I truly began to rise. Cut to a montage of the protagonist achieving success in multiple areas. Speaking at conferences, appearing in media interviews, and even mentoring others who have been through similar struggles. Each moment represents a step forward, a shift from the person she once was to the person she has become. It wasn't easy. There were times when I doubted myself, times when I felt like the world was still trying to keep me down. But every single time, I remembered one thing: the truth doesn't need to be defended, it speaks for itself. The scene transitions to her interacting with a group of people she once considered her enemies. She's calm, collected, and graceful in her responses. There's no animosity, no bitterness, just the silent acknowledgement that she has surpassed all of them. Some people will always try to hold you back, she continues. But those people? They can't touch you once you realize your worth. The power they had over you was never real. It was an illusion. The camera follows her as she walks through a park, deep in thought. The weight of her past seems to have lifted. She moves with purpose, a sense of freedom in her stride. And once you realize that, it's not just about overcoming betrayal anymore. It's about embracing who you are, free from the shadows of your past. It's about turning every single setback into fuel for your future. As she stands by the water, looking out at the horizon, she reflects on everything she's learned. The truth is, betrayal doesn't define you. What defines you is how you rise above it, how you choose to heal, how you choose to move on, and how you choose to use everything you've been through to become someone even stronger. She looks directly into the camera, speaking as though to each viewer individually. If I can do it, so can you. You don't have to stay stuck in the past. You don't have to let anyone else define your future. You hold the pen. You get to write your own story. The scene opens with the protagonist walking into a luxurious building, a symbol of all the success she's achieved. But unlike earlier, this time there's no hint of arrogance or boastfulness. Instead, she moves through the space with a quiet confidence. The atmosphere feels calm, yet charged with the energy of someone who knows exactly who they are. As she walks past the mirrors and the glass windows, the reflection isn't just of a woman who's made it. It's the reflection of someone who has fought through the darkest times and emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Sometimes we think that victory is a single moment, she reflects, her voice calm and measured. That it's the trophy you win at the end of a race, the applause you get after a speech, or the deal you sign after years of hard work. But I've come to realize that true victory isn't one moment. It's all the moments that led you here. The camera follows her as she enters a private office, her workspace filled with awards, certificates, and letters of appreciation. But there's something different about the way she interacts with it all now. She doesn't look at these things as symbols of her success. Instead, she looks at them as reminders of the obstacles she's overcome to get here. Victory is the process, she continues, sitting down at her desk. It's in the nights when you thought you couldn't go on, but you kept going anyway. It's in the moments when people doubted you, but you proved them wrong. And most of all, victory is in the peace you find within yourself when you finally let go of the past. She pauses for a moment, reflecting on the journey. The next shot is a flashback of her confronting the people who once betrayed her. Now it's clear. The protagonist has not only risen above the betrayals, but she's also made peace with them. She's no longer a victim of her circumstances. She's the victor in her own life. Forgiveness isn't about letting people off the hook, she says. It's about letting yourself off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of resentment and bitterness that keep you trapped. And once you let go of that, that's when the real victory happens. The scene transitions to a final, quiet reflection, her sitting in a room overlooking the city. The camera pans across the view as she speaks her final words. In the end, victory isn't just about proving your worth to others. It's about proving your worth to yourself. It's about standing in the face of betrayal, looking at the lies, and saying, "You do not define me." It's about taking back your power and using it to shape a future you never thought possible. She stands up and walks toward the window, her gaze unwavering. This isn't just my story. It's the story of anyone who's ever been told they weren't enough, anyone who's ever been knocked down, anyone who's ever faced betrayal. Because if I can rise, so can you. The camera lingers on her face for a moment, capturing the strength, the peace, and the determination in her eyes. She turns, walks away from the window, and the screen fades to black. Remember, the greatest victory lies not in the battles you win, but in the person you become along the way. The final scene begins with soft, uplifting music in the background. The protagonist is now sitting at a cafe, looking relaxed and at peace, her face softening with a genuine smile. This is no longer the person who was betrayed, nor is she the one who once struggled under the weight of others' opinions. She is someone entirely new. Someone who has emerged victorious, not by fighting back against the world, but by transforming it into her own path forward. As I look back on everything, on the betrayals, the doubts, the struggles, what I've come to understand is this: none of it was a waste, she says, her voice full of wisdom. Every challenge, every lie, every betrayal, it all served a purpose. It shaped who I am today. And today I'm no longer a victim. I'm the creator of my own story. She takes a deep breath and looks out the window, the camera slowly pulling back to show the bustling city life around her. People walk by, living their own stories, and for a moment it's clear that her journey isn't one of isolation, but a part of the universal human experience. The camera focuses on her face as she smiles softly. Remember, the world may throw obstacles in your path. People may betray you, and life may not always be fair. But at the end of the day, it's not the world's opinion that matters. It's yours. You have the power to take those lies, those setbacks, and turn them into your greatest victory. Because victory doesn't come from the outside world, it comes from within. The camera slowly zooms out, showing the protagonist standing up, ready to continue her journey, and walking confidently out of the cafe. Today, I stand before you, not as someone who was knocked down, but as someone who found the strength to rise. And if you take one thing from my story, I hope it's this: you are always capable of turning your setbacks into triumphs, because your victory is already inside you. As she walks into the distance, the camera lingers on the quiet, hopeful city in the background, signaling that the journey of transformation is ongoing. For her, for the viewers, and for anyone brave enough to rise above the pain and take control of their destiny. The screen fades to black with a final message: your greatest victory is just ahead. Keep going,